Welcome to this video. This one I'm going to focus on Wrestlemania events, or more specifically ones that I've heard people comment, a lot of people comment on, except for one of them, being whether this have been main events, whether I agree with it or not. And there's one, it was not a lot, I think a lot of people I know heard comments, but it's really what the person involved that wasn't the main event said about it, and whether I agree with that one or not. So, and this only goes through, I believe, WrestleMania 29. So, I guess for the last, from between 30 and 40, so or 11, weren't really any matches that should not have been main events, I guess. Oh, main events that should. Oh, okay, the back that probably is one actually I could make an argument for, uh, but if I remember toward the end of the video, I'll put it up. And if I don't, comment in the comments to ask me where it was, and hopefully I'll remember. So first one would be from WrestleMania 3. The main event was Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant for the Hulk Hogan's WWF Championship. A lot of people say that the main event should have been Macho Man Randy Savage versus Ricky Dragon Steamboat for Macho Man's Intercontinental Championship belt. And this is one I actually agree with the main event, not one that people were saying. And because first of all, the main event should be a title match. There's going to be a few exceptions. A good example would be WrestleMania 1. It wasn't for a championship, but it was the first one, and you had Mr. T in it to help get people to get the. Well, technically it wasn't a pay-per-view at that point. It was a closed circuit, but still have people come and watch it. It was showing by closed circuit. So this one, not only was a championship match, but the biggest push was for Hogan and Andre. I mean, yes, they could push Steamboat and Savage more, but first off, I don't think anyone really expected that match to be that good. If this was if that match was a couple years later, people probably would have expected by then. I'm talking about like 89, 90, because of all the matches they ended up with other people. But like the Andre Hogan one was pushed to the moon, and to be honest, they were at the Pontiac Silverdome. Supposedly 93,000 people showed up for that for that WrestleMania, and I don't think Savage and Steamboat would have brought them in that many people. Hogan Andre was because of the storytelling. Hogan's best friend turned in one of the title shots. So yeah, that's how you sell tickets. Next one would be WrestleMania 8. And this is one of those that not a lot of people talk about, but I know I've heard, and even I kind of scratch my head to. Well, don't scratch my head, but it's like that. But there is a couple reasons for this. The main event was Hulk Hogan versus Sis Justice, and as people come on, so if you think of Ric Flair versus Macho Man Randy Savage for Ric Flair's WWF heavyweight title. And this one, the biggest story was Hogan and Flair. No, not Hogan and Flair. Well, Hogan and Flair actually. And that was, I think, the initial main event was supposed to be, but apparently they had matches at house shows, and it wasn't really going well. Eventually changed everything, but he did kind of plant the seeds in that to begin with, from the Royal Rumble with Hogan eliminating Sid, laying Flair win the title. Then, when they named number one contender, there was no number one contender, was Hulk Hogan. Sid got pissed about that. But they had a tag team match on Saturday night's main event. I forgot who Savage, no, Savage, but Flair's partner was Sid and Hogan, and Sid walked out on Hogan. So the build up was there, but they also had good build up for Flair and Savage, which was technically, the co-main event. I mean, I probably would have put Flair and Savage, but I think it's because it was Hogan. Why it was the main event. So I don't necessarily disagree because Hogan was still a drawing power, especially considering this was in the Hoosier Dome in Indianapolis, Indiana. So that probably played a part in having Hogan as well too. So in that sense, it's like I would have preferred Flair and Savage, but I understand why this exception was made to what I said about the championship match, because Hogan was the bigger draw at the time than Flair, at least for WWF. If this was WCW, Savage and Flair would have gone last because Flair was a bigger draw for WCW. So Hogan may have main evented that too, actually, to tell you the truth. Because of the big name, but you get what I'm saying. And if Hogan was there, Flair Savage would have main evented regardless, though. And this is kind of one of those things I think Flair and Savage probably should have, regardless, though. But I guess I didn't really want people walking out after Hogan Justice match. Next one is Wrestlemania 11. This is probably one of the bigger ones. That's one of the three bigger ones that people talk about changes. That one also being Andre WrestleMania 3 was already talked about. So WrestleMania 11, the main event was Bam Bam Bigelow taking on Pro Football Hall of Famer Lawrence Taylor. And a lot of people say that Shawn Michaels versus Diesel for Diesel's WWF title should have been the main event. And this one, I agree with the main event. Unlike the Hogan Sid one, which of course, like I mentioned, because Hogan was the bigger name, I think the attention Lawrence Taylor was bringing to the WWF had to be the main event. Today, it would be, but back in 1995, it was, because it should have been. Because it's one of those where you can't put what goes on today 30 years ago. Because because basically back then all you had was Sports Center. You had and the stuff like Entertainment Tonight and stuff that may pick it up. But no, Sports Center definitely wasn't ESPN. So I was getting all the news, and it was like you want them to watch the whole pay-per-view, especially if they're paying at that time it was like $30, $40 at that time, just 30 years ago. So yes, this was at the time was the correct decision, because nowadays you don't see Logan Paul main event WrestleMania. You don't see Bad Bunny. The Rock did 3 times after he left WWE, but when we saw the movie stuff. But again, you also had all those wrestling people who would buy it, and you would hope a lot of non-wrestling fans who knew who The Rock was beat up too. So, but yeah, it's like most of the time you want them to come in and stay for the matches and stuff, watching the match, especially if they're paying all that money. Next one, which I don't really hear a lot of, but I've heard some from WrestleMania 13. The main event was Undertaker versus Psycho Sid for Sid's WWF title. And there are people that say that Triple H and Austin, not Triple H, Bret Hart and Austin, Stone Cold Steve Austin, that is, should the main event, and that's the match where they had a double turn. and it's going in 2025. That's being inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. But that should not have been the main event. I think this one they did get right. Even though I think the Bret Hart Austin may have had a better build up. Again, there's a couple reasons why I think this was right choices, because in the Austin Hart match he had the double turns. But with Hart, you kind of saw it coming because he was starting to start doing more heelish promos. And then the fact after, before and after the Taker Psycho Sid match, Bret Hart came out both times to act like to complain about it, about how he should have been in the world title match. So that's the reason too. It's like he wouldn't have came out if this match was the main event. He would never came out and solidify his heel turn. You know, when he could have just dressed in a Raw the next night, but instead of seeing how he would have reacted to that, then it's like, hey, you just saw me how he reacted before the match and after the match. Then he could further the story along better. So yes, for this one they made, I think WWF made the right choice. The next one is the third one that I think most people will understand that should have been the WWE the championship match should not have been the main event, so can't give away. This WrestleMania 18, the main event was Chris Jericho and Triple H for Jericho's undisputed WWE championship, and the people saying that, which I agree with, would have been Hulk Hogan, Hollywood Hulk Hogan, and The Rock. So, okay, now the reason why I think they put the Triple H Chris Jericho match as the main event was because this was Jericho was out most of 2001 with a quad injury, so they were making a big deal, and it probably would have been the main event if the NWO had not come back the month before, prior to this WrestleMania. And so you had Scott Hall take on Stone Cold Steve Austin, and then you had Triple H and Hulk Hogan. I guess he didn't sense it's Triple H because Hollywood Hulk Hogan, but it had Hulk Hogan and The Rock, and they did make this mistake one more time, but you had two of the biggest icons in wrestling, and you don't have that as the main event, because that's our name value. That's going to be a very anticipated match, and yes, that definitely should have main evented. Especially, it was like someone put a needle after the match. Someone put like a needle into a balloon and then pop or let the air go out. Yeah, that's what happened here, and that happened again a few years later as well, which I'll get to in a few moments. But it's like, how do you not expect to get those big pops? Because like, it's not like Hulk Hogan was getting big pops all the time in WCW, but by this point you had a lot of people, including myself, who were now in their 20s, in the mid-20s, who grew up watching Hulk Hogan in the 80s, and now they were the ones buying the tickets, and they were buying the kids. So it was like bringing possibly their kids. So it was like, you have to think about this match. You got to think about that as well. So yeah, Hogan and Rock. I think McMahon probably agreed with that later on. I know a lot of people would talk about. Next one. This one was not necessarily what I know some people have talked about, but it's not like a really big one. It's from WrestleMania 24, and the main event was Edge and The Undertaker as his W World Heavyweight Championship. Um, and the match, some people say, is Ric Flair versus Shawn Michaels, and which was Ric Flair's quote unquote retirement match. Obviously, we know he a year and a half later ended up in TNA, had several matches in TNA. Then he had a match, his real retirement match. Well, that's also the last match, SummerSlam weekend 2021 in Nashville, where he teamed with Andrade to take on Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett, I believe it was. But yeah, even though Ric Flair did say he was offered the main event and he turned it down because in his opinion that, which is my opinion too, that the main event should be for the world title. And like I said, there are times when that needs to be changed. So like the Hollywood Hogan versus The Rock at 18, or WrestleMania was 11 with Lawrence Taylor and taking on Batman Bigelow, at least for that year at least. And this was another one too, because this is the retirement of one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. So yeah, it's like you definitely need Flair to go on last, and that way during the matches would have been affected by if he took too long to leave the ring instead of to get his flowers and so forth. So this one I definitely disagree with Flair on. Next one is the very following year. It was WrestleMania 25. The main event was Triple H versus Randy Orton for Triple H's World Heavyweight Championship, WWE Championship, I should say. My bad. I forget Edge was the World Heavyweight Champion, but it was been Triple H's championship, and Orton won the Royal Rumble. But of course, a lot of people are saying that there's an Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. And they did get it right the following year. And kind of like how I mentioned with yes, this should have been the main event. It should have been Taker and Shawn Michaels, and just like was one with 18 with Rock and Hogan. It was like after the match, it's like a pin hitting, popping the balloon with the air coming out. Now, the Triple H Shawn Michaels, Triple H Randy Orton match, I mean, it did get a big build, but at the same time, last time these Shawn Michaels and Undertaker had a one-on-one match was Royal Rumble 1998. That's where it was in a casket match, and that's where Shawn Michaels actually hurt his back. Plus, 3 months prior to that, they had the very first Hell in a Cell match where they got a 5-star rating from Dave Meltzer, and it's Kane's debut. Bloodline, Bad Blood. Thinking Roman Reigns had nothing to do with this match, but yes, this definitely should have been. And it's like, and the reason I bring up that last time they had a singles match was I'm not sure if they were any tag matches in between since Shawn Michaels came back, but they were twice one in the Royal Rumbles. So in 07 when Undertaker won it, I think it was 07. It was 07. Undertaker was number 30. Last 2 men in the match was Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. I think they had the longest time in the Royal Rumble for the last 2 competitors before Undertaker won it. And then in 08, they were number 1s and 2. So even though, like I said, they did face each other, kind of, they didn't have a one-on-one match at this point in 11 years. So yes, should have been Shawn Michaels and Undertaker. The next one And this is not one. This is kind of polarizing, and, and it's not necessarily a different a total match between two people. This should change it. It should be it's changing the main event altogether. That's from Wrestlemania 29, where it was The Rock and John Cena was the main event for The Rock's WWE Championship. And first of all, we didn't need that back-to-back years because in 28 we had John Cena and The Rock once in a lifetime. Now it's twice in a lifetime match. And Punk said is like has always complained about him not getting main event, and that's his main event. He probably is right. He should have been probably seen it in Punk. Because we know, because like even though WrestleMania before the big business, there's no chance of catching lightning in the jar twice with this. They got lucky with Cody and Roman at 39 and 40, but they had a good story going with this. But with The Rock, he was not going to be there for most of the year to help of the previous year, and they didn't do as much as they did the year before with it. So they should have kept the belt on CM Punk and have CM Punk versus John Cena, or just added CM Punk to the match to make it a triple threat match. So yeah, this is one that doesn't have a match that a total match that should replace this, adding someone and or taking someone out. So it's like, I never agree with it. Now, actually, I did remember this. The one match since 29, I could think of that was technically a main event, but could usually been changed, was Stone Cold Steve Austin and Kevin Owens from that one of WrestleMania 38. Because the main event could have been very easily Charlotte Flair and Ronda Rousey for should that have been for Flair's Raw Women's title, I guess it was. I think it was on Raw. But of course, you have Stone Cold Steve Austin in his first match since WrestleMania 19, and so obviously he's going to be in the main event instead. So, but I know a lot of people don't call that a match, but technically it is a match and it was a main event match. Like I mentioned, did I miss something with the main events that probably should have changed? Please say and say why, or if it can be just simply because you didn't like one of the wrestlers in the match too, possibly. If you disagreed with anything I said, say something too, because I know we're not all going to agree on everything on this. So if you disagree, that's fine with me. I'm not going to come at you and say that you're wrong. Unless you have bad reasons, of course, saying that Hulk Hogan was a jobber and he should have been main events. Yeah, no, he wasn't a jobber. He was doing, of course. I mean, you don't know what that means, but thank you for watching, and please like, share, comment, and like and share whatever those good things are, and have a nice day.